Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Tuesday Uncuckables. It's the 50th anniversary. I'm Tim Wilms. Still in state government mandated lockdown because Daniel Andrews, as we predicted, is the last state premier to lift the lockdown, stay at home, house arrest orders, and as such, David Hiscox, editor of the XYZ.
Here, hello everybody in the chat. Personally, I'm quite happy to keep this lockdown going as long as we possibly can. I kind of like my house. It's got a piano here. I can work from home. Let's just keep it going, people.
The problem, and I know James has said this and agreed with me, that it's the compulsory lockdown. You can voluntarily stay isolated. That doesn't bother me. But some of us, well, we like to leave the house maybe just to, I don't know, just go for a drive or go to the beach, go to the park, and if we get pulled over, we don't want to have to justify why we're leaving the house.
Tell you what, when I see some of the traffic, I'm just thinking, what lockdown? It's pretty heavy.
But they must have legitimate reasons.
Absolutely.
To leave the house.
Well, so many essential workers out there. It's as I was saying to Maddie last night, it's not really a quarantine. If we were really in quarantine, we literally would not be allowed out of our houses. But
how come the coronavirus is more likely to spread in Victoria than the rest of Australia, where they're lifting restrictions? On Friday in New South Wales, you can have 2 friends over to your place to, I don't know, have dinner or drinks. What a liberation is that? And WA, you can have 10 people over. You can have a mini house party.
Maybe, I don't know, there are all sorts of factors that it could be higher here in Victoria. Maybe something to do with having a communist government, maybe higher levels of population density, higher levels of diversity, all sorts of possibilities.
I would argue that New South Wales is, well, the city of Sydney is way more diverse than here in Melbourne. Now, if you think Melbourne's diverse, go to the centre of Sydney, go to Chatswood or Bankstown. It's way more diverse.
Yes,
you'll get diversity overload.
You're comparing 2 people who've fallen out of a plane without a parachute, and one of them is closer to the ground. That's Sydney. Melbourne's pretty diverse, especially out west.
Yeah. As you alluded to, probably the reason the lockdown is continuing to at least May 11, when the second visit Victoria stand People's Republic of Victoria, People's Democratic Republic of Victoria, since technically Victorians did vote for him, would be the last state to live lockdown. Daniel Andrews is just enjoying the absolute power and seeming to be a control freak. Remember, he's said that visiting your intimate partner who you don't live with, somebody could die on the way there from coronavirus, and playing golf, somebody could die from the coronavirus as well.
Yeah, well, they have stepped on a few things.
And Victoria looks like it'll be
Let's change it over. It's Boomer Tech Dave again.
Oh wait, I'll switch over. I think we should be better now. The 5G, which everyone is freaking out about.
I'm wondering, are there any yoga mums in the audience? Because apparently we're getting the yoga mums red pilled. That's what SBS or the ABC I think is worried about. They're saying, like it's all the yoga mums worried about 5G. Between them and the ethnic nationalists, there could be a lot of fake news doing the rounds.
I know that we already touched upon that YouTube is now censoring any sort of disagreement with 5G, and anyone who disagrees with the World Health Organization.
Yeah, somebody's pointing out to me today. It's very interesting how all these different powers align. Like you've got the cultural Marxist SJW lefties here in the West. You've got transnational corporations owned by nefarious agents, and then you've got the communist dictatorship of the biggest country in the world. They all seem to be on the same side. It's very, very interesting.
And you meant transnational. You meant that in both meanings.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah. The transnational is you can use that word interchangeably with globo homo.
Mm. Or it could be nation fluid. One day you might be Australian, the next day you might be Canadian.
Well, that's the thing, Tim. Like, what is a country? You know, like there are probably people out there who like are more Australian than most Australians living here. They just don't know it yet. It's all about values, isn't it, Tim?
Yes, of course. Now, just like to remind those we are on YouTube and DLive. And if you're watching on YouTube, I've put the entropy link in the live chat. You should all know how entropy works now. You can ask us a question throughout the show, or you can send us through a super chat to support the production of the program. A little later, we'll be joined by Australian Meditations to get into what's... He told us to speak about all the things that he's not versed in first before we move on to the stuff that he's really eager to talk about.
What's up first then, Tim? What's up?
Well, have you downloaded the COVID Safe app? 2.5 million Australians have downloaded the COVID Safe app.
It's 2.5 million now, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. I was making a point last night, and I've made a point in the piece. Like, the Australian government has been trying to reassure everybody, look, we've got the strongest safeguards in the world, 3 sets of legislation or something that's supposed to protect people's data and people's privacy. Apparently, officials can go to jail for misusing the data. But I've just pointed out, look, you can just change the law. Like, we live in a country whose founding was supposed to be based on providing a homeland for the white British subjects in Australia. But over the course of a century, that's all been turned around. And so now when we point that out, we're referred to as far-right extremists. So yeah, you can change the law to get the opposite of what it was originally intended. Having said that, the government can just find out where we are, where we've been, what we've been saying anyway. For starters, like we give a lot of information via social media. People like us put our views out on the internet all the time, and they can track us through our mobile phones anyway. We're already living in a police state.
Well, according to the COVID Safe website, you don't have to give all of your details. When you download it, you provide your name, which doesn't have to actually be your real name. You can choose a pseudonym or a nickname. So you can choose,
Really?
Yeah, Big Dick 69, or if you.
So you've just given the game away, Tim. You'll have to change yours.
Well, I haven't got the app, so if there is a Big Dick 69er on there, it's not me. Mobile number and postcode, and select your age range. You don't have to give your exact age, and
you can be age fluid on there, huh?
Well, yeah, you can be 20 to 29 years, I guess.
I've been that for about 20 years, actually. Yeah.
And as they keep assuring us, and it's been quite cringe to see some conservative commentators say, well, now that it's been explained to me, like just how secure and private it is, I'm going to download it now. So apparently, according to them, all the data is stored on your phone, and so when you come into within somebody from 1.5 meters, and you're in their vicinity for 15 minutes, it registers a digital handshake through Bluetooth.
Yeah, we know.
And so it's all stored on your phone, and the only way that your digital Bluetooth handshake data can be released is if you consent once you're diagnosed positive with the coronavirus. And yes, Greg Hunter said he's going to legislate, was it 5 years in jail for misuse of that, and legislating that's sort of a big statement. You mentioned that they can change it. You can change any law, but
Yeah, you can always change the law.
it'd be hard for them to get away with it. But of course now
No,
everyone's...
it wouldn't. They've literally changed the ethnic makeup of this country. They've gone against
there's
the
no,
entire
what
reason
is
for the
it?
founding of this country.
Was the White Australia policy actually an act of parliament?
Yeah, yes, it was the first act.
Well, it was much easier to repeal an act like that in 1967 than it would be in 2020.
No, it's not. If there's political will, you can do anything.
I know.
We live in a time where we've just seen economic management just turned on its head. We're seeing a conservative government act like a central planning, money printing leftist government. We literally live in a time of crisis where legislation, like the impossible, has just been turned on its head. So, when people say, "Look, there's no possible way that this can happen," we've just been living through 2 or 3 months where where this can never possibly happen, has happened several times a day. So, when they say, "Look, it's not going to happen. We're not going to use it for nefarious purposes," pull the other one. Like it's entirely plausible.
Jimbo Jackson in the chat has said sex fluid too. He's pointed out that it doesn't ask your gender, the COVID safe app.
They'll have to do something about that. Like they'll need like what is it, 158 or 300? Is it 3,000 or so? How many genders are there now?
Oh, well, there's I won't mention her name, but some really cringe SJW, was it non-binary trans YouTuber, said there'd be millions and millions of genders. I mean,
well, yes, I've suggested actually on XYZ that there are actually so many different genders you can actually see them from outer space, and if you actually piled them all on top of each other, they'd reach halfway to the moon.
Yeah, you're probably the most fluent in the English language. You can pretty much combine any 2 English words to create a gender, or 3 English words. Like the possibility, how many... Somebody worked it out, how many different...
So you could actually have a gender called Purple Monkey Dishwasher.
Yeah, of course you could.
Magnificent.
I mean, who are you to not validate someone's identity?
Yes. So, let me guess though, attack helicopter is banned as a gender. Yeah.
Well, what if somebody seriously identifies as it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would actually like to identify as a carrier battle group. I've been trying to assemble the parts for it, but it's a little bit tricky. Anyway, we've tangented, Tim. We were talking about the what is it? The COVID
safe, and of course
diversity flu safe.
Well, it's got that Orwellian word "safe" that download this, and what they want, what is it, 40% uptake in it. So they've got 2.5 million at the moment before they're absolutely going to set us free. And don't forget that Scott Morrison said to Alan Jones on 2GB that he might make it mandatory if not enough people voluntarily take it up. Then he backtracked the next day and said no.
So there you go. Yeah. Of course he backtracked, but yeah, that's it. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. Like, can you imagine like 6 months ago that the government would say, "Look, everybody has to download an app so that we can trace your movements." Oh, but we're not going to really trace your movements, and we're going to put safeguards in place. It's like we're living through the chapters of a dystopian novel, but we're living through the it's like we're living through the flashbacks of what's his name, Smith, in the time before Big Brother took over. Like just remembering the freedom and how it happened, remembering freedom and how totalitarianism happened.
Well, it's only been up for 48 hours, the COVID Safe app, and already the scammers are
Yeah, I
taking
heard that one.
advantage of it with that text message saying you've strayed more than 20 meters from your house, from your home. What's your excuse? Please call this number to justify why you've been out.
Yeah, that's probably the most red-pilling scam I've ever heard of in my life. I'm actually quite impressed with that because it's so believable.
Well, it's an evolution of the ATO
Winston
scam calls.
Smith, thank you.
Yeah,
So what were we saying,
where you have this guy with the Indian accent that says, we have a warrant for your arrest for tax fraud and tax evasion. Before we take the matter into the local district court, you better phone this. And they suck heaps of people in.
I remember getting that one. I heard it, and I called the ATO as soon as I heard it.
Oh, I just ignore them. Like, I know that we could actually do a show. Like, I know that other live programs have done shows where they've called back these people and just like wasted their time and trolled them.
Yeah.
I remember, and they get really aggressive and like threaten you and tell you to shut up and everything.
I think there was actually there's a tech guy who actually managed to convince one of those people to actually download a virus onto their computer.
I've got those ones. They try to.
Oh no, but what I'm saying, Tim, is that the guy actually scammed the scammers and got the scammers to download a virus onto their own computer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's been done.
But as I said, these scams they suck a lot of people in because there's like their automatic thing is like, oh, somebody says they're from the government, I believe them.
Yeah, I'm just responding to Port Film Co-op. So what else have we got to talk about, Tim?
Oh yes, those NRL players who broke quarantine.
You'll have to tell me about this one. I don't know.
Yeah, who they went on a camping trip where they rode motorbikes and fired rifles. I'll share the article here on the screen here. Since we're not on Zoom, you'll be able to see it in here. It is. Laurel Mitchell and Josh Addo-Carr have been charged, both been charged with firearm offences following their controversial weekend camp. The pair posted videos on social media holding guns and riding bikes close to Mitchell's home in Taree. In a statement, New South Wales Police, 2 men have been charged with firearms offences on the mid-north coast. This is how stupid people are, like these type of people are, in like posting their law breaking to social media.
Yes.
And so not only have they have breached the coronavirus restrictions, but also firearms laws as well.
You keep in mind we shouldn't have firearms laws here in Australia. But,
I know.
Yeah,
but both both Storm winger Addo-Carr and Rabbitohs fullback Mitchell have been fined $20,000 for their weekend of camping, with another $30,000 suspended. This is by the NRL.
Mm-hmm. So
it is understood that this is Addo-Carr's third breach of coronavirus rules. They've also been handed suspended one game bans, and there was another third NRL player who was with them, Tyrone Roberts-Davis of Newcastle, was handed a $10,000 fine.
His name is actually Tyrone.
Yeah. And let's have a look at their video. Their video apology. When they do the video, you won't be able to hear it.
Is
Dave.
Tyrone on the video?
No, it's. It should say.
Tyrone.
I don't. We haven't got Reg on the show to tell us who these players are.
That's right.
G'day mob, Latrell Mitchell here. Firstly, I just want to apologise on my actions this weekend. I just been up here with my family for the last 4 to 5 weeks and practicing, that social distancing stuff. And there's a little bit of a slip up, but like I said, Foxy reached out. Had his cousins that are going through a bit of stuff in Sydney, so he just wanted to get away up to the bush and make sure that they're getting culturally connected again, and that's the whole part of the concept of this weekend was, and wasn't here to break any rules or just hurt anyone. We're not being selfish. Look, I couldn't turn down the brothers, in a time of need, so just wanted to let you know that on behalf of me and Foxy and all my mob, like, we do apologise.
Hey guys, Josh Adokar here. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for my actions this weekend. Nothing was intentional or deliberate. A couple of family members of mine were going through a really tough time at the moment, and I got in contact with Latrell to go out to his private property and try to connect to the culture, to our culture again, and try and put a smile on their faces and have a bit of fun as well. I can't wait to go out there and play and finally play some footy. And like I said before, I'm really sorry from the bottom of my heart. Thanks, guys.
As you heard there, they played the race card, saying they were trying to connect with their culture and apologised on behalf of the mob. And as the people have pointed out,
sorry, they were. Oh, okay,
riding motorcycles and firing guns. I don't believe they existed in ancient Aboriginal society.
Yes, yes, and it's a very simple. This does not make sense.
And during this coronavirus pandemic and lockdown, the playing the race card, race baiting, it doesn't work like it used to.
No, mind it doesn't stop them trying to use it.
Oh yeah, but it's just everyone's just saying we're all like a lot of people's families are going through tough times, and like he says, we didn't mean to break any rules. Yeah, but you did. I didn't mean to commit that crime. I didn't mean to break the law, but I did.
Yes. It's going to be interesting over the next few months because we've been giving this commentary for a couple of months now, saying, look, coronavirus is making people focus on survival rather than virtue signaling. But what we're seeing is that the people who are invested in political correctness are doing everything they can to keep political correctness going, to keep that narrative the dominant narrative. So, yes, like regular Australians are going to tell them they're full of it. There's going to be a lot of, there's going to be increased activity on the internet. What we need is to translate that into real gains politically and culturally.
Antifa for Life said, yes, Tim, but credit where it's due. They apologize. They apologize because they got caught. They basically they unintentionally pled guilty.
We're sorry we got caught.
And now there's another.
Actually, has Scott Morrison get up there and just say, look, guys, just stop it.
He should have said that. Though there's been another NRL player, it's broken today, breaching social distancing. A white NRL player, New South Wales Origin and Penrith Panthers star Nathan Cleary has broken his silence after he was busted breaking strict social distancing rules on Anzac Day, with New South Police now reportedly investigating the photos. Because here he is with his arm around some girls here, sitting on his couch at home, surrounded by several women who reportedly popped in to visit him on Saturday. Is that all that they did? He said that they were there no longer than 10 minutes.
Oh, that's all it takes, isn't it?
Yeah. just a quick pop in.
Again, like, why do you post the photos, guys?
Yeah.
Why do you post the photos?
Yeah, and we are still living in a monogamous society. You're only allowed one intimate partner to invite over. If that is like, we're just.
That's a good point.
We're just gratuitously speculating here.
What you're talking about here is a horrendous injustice, Tim. People should be allowed to have guys should be allowed to have multiple hot women around. I agree with you 100%, Tim.
And can you also be relationship fluid? Like you can have like a different intimate partner every day.
Well, 5 minutes ago I was with this chick. 5 minutes ago now. Yeah. Anyway, enough of this degeneracy.
But yes, the NRL is supposed to resume on May 28, and yet look at how the players are behaving when the lockdown is still in place. Everyone, like people are asking the question: can the players be trusted to not get the coronavirus? Especially
so
when
what you're telling me is that footballers are behaving like footballers always do.
Well, the NRL ones have always been the bad boys. I mean, remember that the AFL players they get all they get the intense sensitivity and anti-sexism training and whatever. So they're all good boys.
They're not all good. There was a player over in WA.
Oh yes, the Bulldogs player who he crashed his car and there was a domestic issue on the same night. Yeah.
Yeah. So footballers are just doing what footballers do.
Yeah, but the AFL has always been like much better than the NRL.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but who's more politically correct, the AFL or the NRL? Who's worse at the moment?
Oh, I would say that the AFL they as I said I think it was last week, they still managed to defy the go woke go broke, and they're much more able to keep their players into line more than the NRL players when it comes
I think the AFL just has it's just a bigger giant to fall. When the AFL falls, it's going to fall. Is Stefanous on the line, Tim?
Yeah, he is. Stefanous, can you call me? So that's the way to add you to the chat. Oh, here he is here. I'll see if I can... Answering the... I'll have to decline this. I'll add him to the call here. See, he didn't want to use Zoom, Stefanous. He and Maddie are very...
fair enough. Yeah. Don't blame him at all. Don't blame him at all.
I mean, they're what is it? I mean, it's two evils. I mean, Skype is owned by Microsoft.
They're intelligent.
And Zoom, what is it? Routes calls through China. Oh, here we go. Here.
Hey. That's a good look, Matty.
G'day.
How's it going?
I'll see if I can get you. I've got to fit you all in now.
Yeah, I went to Coles today. I was dressed like this, hoodie, and I got a Ned Kelly mask. So every time I go for shopping or whatever, I'm paranoid and I wear a hoodie and a mask. But I wear like a motorcycle mask. I don't wear like the medical masks. I just wear a motorcycle mask.
Yes.
And then I wash it like once a week just to get rid of any bacteria.
Can you move Stefanous to the other side, to your left, so you're on the screen?
Yeah, give me 1 sec. All good?
A little bit more.
Are you, Stefanous, are you loving the fact that you can actually dress like that and get away with it in public?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, and Dave, you need to move to your right.
Let's go a bit more to the left. Yeah. Perfect.
Now you've gone to, like, now your head is, like, now it's showing your asbestos roof now, Dave.
Your head is showing your asbestos roof, Tim.
I don't have an I'm in a postmodern house.
Look, it's fine. You just got to widen the middle bit. People, everybody in the chat, just, mind a bit of a tech for now.
No, you've got to... Dave, move. Still got to move. Now you've got to move to your left.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's
perfect.
That's bloody.
Yes.
Better. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. What's next on the agenda, Tim?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
I'll remind everyone to please join us on Entropy. I see that YouTube it's decided to stop messing with us this week with the view count. It hasn't fluctuated from 7 to 53, so a certain somebody can't claim that we had 7 viewers last week.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody here. Very good to see everybody here. That's a good top as well. Is that a what's that cross?
That's the Greek national emblem. So
Yeah, beautiful.
it's pretty cool. Got a custom made from America. It's pretty sick.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Good to see you wearing it. Be proud.
Yeah, man.
Well, yeah.
So-
as Maddie was making the point, like be grateful for your ancestors. And,
100%.
be proud of them, not for them. Or
Now that everyone's here, let's move on to the main topic of tonight's show, which is the China question, which we need to find a solution to.
every solution by definition is the last one, because once you've got a solution, there's no more need for a solution. So it's final, really. Just to preempt what we're talking about, basically, I'm going to put out a headline tomorrow saying China threatens to stop sending us cheap crap.
Yes, the Chinese ambassador Cheng Jingyi said that our support for an independent international inquiry into the origins of the coronavirus could result in Chinese tourists having second thoughts. Maybe the ordinary people will say, should we drink Australian wine, eat Australian beef? And said that our export industry could be severely threatened, education, tourism, and agriculture.
Oh, the horror. Horror.
But it's aimed not at the everyday Australian, but the political class who have just relied on trade with China to basically keep our economy going. But we've now got a bipartisan support for this independent inquiry, both Liberal and Labor, and said they won't be intimidated by the Chinese government's veiled threats. And even Penny Wong, the Labor shadow foreign affairs spokeswoman, said that she called for change in how Australia deals with China.
Wow. So even Penny Wong realizes that the winds are changing and she has to kind of go, or be seen to be going along with it. That's magnificent. I love that everybody's an economic nationalist now. That's amazing.
And it's because the second half of last year, it was basically China's espionage in Australia was being exposed, and so was their human rights violations back at home. And there were two camps that, well, there was I would say that there were the business as usual people, and they're the people who we needed to rethink of China. There were two groups. There were the classical liberal ones who say we need to liberate the Chinese people, and there were the nationalists saying we don't want this totalitarian state to basically have the ability to cripple us economically and socially, which, well, with the coronavirus, they really turbocharged. And they don't even want an independent inquiry. They're just like, oh, that's offensive.
Well, yeah. So several decades ago, there was a debate, and the for China debate basically went, if we trade with China, we will engage with China, and we will be able to moderate China because we will have economic ties with them. It'll be in their interests to liberalize, because we'll be providing a financial incentive for them to do that. It was argued that economic openness and capitalism breeds liberalism, breeds democracy. And yeah, so we increased engagement, we increased trade with China. What we've seen is the opposite. That trade has allowed China to grow stronger economically, and it's poured that economic might into its military, so it's growing militarily in strength. And China has always been aggressive with the way it conducts its foreign policy. If you oppose China in any way, they will accuse you of all sorts of things, and they will be very aggressive. They'll be aggressive with the military and aggressive with their rhetoric. And so what we're seeing now is China. It's taken a huge hit because there's the potential after coronavirus for a lot of this industry to leave China and go back to countries because people are realizing, hey, we need to start making things ourselves again. But we're seeing China, which is quite strong, throwing its weight around and saying, okay, if people are going to criticize us, we're going to make you pay for it. China's behaving how China behaves, which is always tough. They always want to look like the tough guy, but don't be surprised by what China is doing right now. But we're paying the price for believing a lie. Like, we were never going to liberalize China.
Well, it's basically we've been selling our soul for prosperity.
Yes.
It's like, you can have anything you want, but all it will cost you is your nation's soul.
Yeah, that's it. What's your take on this, Stefanous?
I was thinking about this when I first saw it a couple of days ago. I was thinking about it, and my first reaction was, this is very typical of China. Obviously, they don't want to let independent investigators into their country to investigate the origins of the virus. And I think that Australia's done the right thing when it comes to pushing for it, and there's no way Australia's going to back down from this, because it would just set a bad precedent. But beyond all that, I fully support. I'm not trying to defend China at the moment. I'm just giving you their point of view. And there's probably a lot of reasons why they don't want an investigation. For obviously, maybe something dodgy happened, and it'll prove that they were incompetent and they didn't handle it properly. But I think there's also quite intense nationalistic reasons for China not letting Westerners into their country. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, all these investigators, they're going to come from, Western countries. I mean, only Western countries have, the scientific acumen to investigate this sort of stuff. It's not going to be Africans or whatever coming to their country,
Oh, well, hey, they've got as basically the chief doctor of the world, Tedros, Dr. Ted. He's one of China's greatest allies.
Generally speaking here, it'll be Westerners coming in, and America and whatever, Europe spearheading the investigation through the United Nations or whatever. But the point is, how's that going to look? The average Chinese puncher, I wouldn't say voter, because they don't really vote in China. The average Chinese citizen, how are they going to interpret the Chinese government backing down and basically letting Westerners in, given the whole history of the whole, the Western powers always interfering in Chinese affairs back during the 17th century, 16th century, the what's it called, the wars, the
Opium Wars.
Opium Wars, and there used to be British people walking down the streets of Hong Kong. It harks back to that sort of era in a modern way, obviously. So beyond all the the typical excuses of we're not going to let this happen, there's also other reasons, like the one I just referenced, why they don't want independent investigators into their country.
Absolutely. There is a history of Western countries sending in inspectors, and then that becomes a pretext for war. But just more on the nationalistic angle of this, you've hit the nail right on the head. What we're seeing here is Chinese people who they have a sense of racial identity and racial solidarity. So the Chinese government is looking out for Chinese interests, for China as a whole, and Chinese people are looking out for their own interests, whether they're buying things in supermarkets and sending it back to China, whether they're all just sort of standing up for each other. It's something that we can all learn from. It might seem it's a behaviour that probably seems quite foreign to a lot of Australians, to see people of one country sort of sticking up for their own country and doing so quite parochially and fanatically. But that's how people of a country, that's how you're supposed to behave.
I saw you publish on XYZ just before the show how it was a Daegu shopper, which, to put it a bit more crassly, a shelf stripping shopper, complaining about Australian racism.
Yeah, before you go on, Dave, I just want to say one thing. Before you go on, I just want to say I went on an XYZ article binge. I was reading the last 50 articles you guys published in the last 2 days. Not, I just haven't kept up. I haven't kept up with it a lot because I haven't been on Telegram for a while. But I've been on Telegram for the last 2 weeks more actively, and I get your updates. And I've been missing out on a lot of good content, mate. And I just want to congratulate you on all the great content you've been dishing out. But yeah,
thank you.
Anyway,
Appreciate that a lot. Thank you, Steph. I've got to thank all the people who contribute. Like, there's some amazing writers, and that headline. We've got these guys writing these satire articles, and they're hilarious. I'm loving them, and it's great. It's great clickbait because they're just great headlines. People love it. I love it. So yeah, who is speaking? You, Tim?
Oh, I've got an open floor. I'm normally the one that that interrupts everything. We've had this discussion before about Islamic nations and wanting to continue on their ethnicity and their religious practice throughout the generations. And China has their one-child policy, so they're sort of a bit different, but they do have global ambitions. But just because we admire what they've achieved, it doesn't mean we like what we're doing. They're not. The world that they want is not what we want.
Yes, you can say, oh, okay, look at their tactics. These tactics work. That's all it is.
But in terms of the opium, that was the title of them, the Opium Wars. But the British colonizers, they did end some backward ancient Chinese practices, such as binding women's feet, which is disgusting because they thought that women looked prettier with small feet. If only that back in the 19th century they taught the Chinese not to eat bats, we wouldn't be here.
Have you guys seen the meme? If the Chinese were in the Garden of Eden,
they'd eat the snake.
Yeah, I love that meme.
It's magnificent.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
You know that they're still because.
Hang on, I got a Chinese proverb for you. I got a very enlightening Chinese proverb for you.
Mm-hmm.
Never trust a man you can blindfold with a bootlace. Never trust a man you can blindfold with the bootlace. That is a very important cultural teaching from China. Just have that in mind.
Way of saying don't trust me.
That's such an old hat joke.
They're the best ones, aren't they? So yeah, like what like so China is saying, hey, we'll stop buying your stuff, and we'll stop buying your cheap crap, and we'll start making our own stuff.
The ordinary Australians are just like, be my guest. But it's all the businesses and the politicians that are like, oh no, we'll make it up to you.
That's okay. That's interesting. So, are there signs that business is like wanting to do?
Well, that's in the past. That's what they've done in the past. They've always been to the knee.
Yeah. Okay. So that'll be the interesting thing to watch over coming weeks, over coming months, whether business stays globalist and wants to look after its bottom line, or whether business, realizes, okay, the wind is going in a different direction here. Economic nationalism is back, and if we want to be able to trade in this country, we've got to show a little bit of loyalty to Australia. It'll be interesting to see which way business jumps in that regard.
It was broken in the papers, major newspapers today, but this had been discussed in not our sites but other alternative media. I'll share the news article here. But Chinese scientists linked to virus probe studied live bats in Australia. 2 Chinese scientists who Western intelligence agencies are looking into as part of their probes into the origins of the global coronavirus contagion studied live bats in Australia and research jointly funded by the Australian and Chinese governments. And this is one
down
of
in Geelong, yes.
Yeah, Geelong.
I wonder if they were in Corio, huh?
Peng Zia. Given that Geelong is home of the Geelong Cats football club, that would be the perfect location for some Chinese scientists to study cats.
Jesus. It'll be interesting how this one unfolds, because I want to see what they find on this scientist, so to speak. What are your thoughts on the possible sort of outcomes from that probe, so to speak?
Well, notice that they did. It was the Washington Post. Remember that it only gets. It's only allowed to be discussed about in wider circles if the mainstream media report it. They talked about the bioweapons lab in Wuhan when the Washington Post reported on it, but now they've gone back to the wet markets, and which is, of course, the bat soup. I couldn't believe, because I'm going to go on a tangent here. The UK's Comic Relief had their big night in with all the old comics coming out with their old shows to record a short isolated segment. And do you remember the show Little Britain from the early 2000s?
Yes.
Yeah, or of course in 2020 that show is highly racist and transphobic because they wore blackface and all that other stuff. And they opened up with a Lou and Andy sketch. Andy is the I don't like it guy. He's in a wheelchair, but he's not really disabled. And Lou comes back from the supermarket. I got all your favorite food. What would you like for tea? And he says, I'd like a bat. And like Lou's like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. And the Independent in the UK, racist Little Britain's return, peddles the conspiracy theory that the coronavirus originated from bat soup, which that is journalism denial. That is actually to still claim that. Like the Independent, a major UK publication, still does not admit that it went from bats to humans. That's how much in their denial, because they don't want to appear racist. And this is what China has exploited so well.
Yeah, it's the usual pattern then, isn't it? Like when the mainstream media report on it, it's not a conspiracy theory. But when somebody uses it in a rather cutting way that can just expose the narrative, then it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, crazy.
There's also, happening further north in Asia, there's speculation about the health and aliveness of Kim Jong-un, because he hasn't been.
And isn't that just
seen.
a fountain of memes, huh?
Little Kim, or Big Kim, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah, that chick.
Yeah, and I know. Yeah, everyone's focusing on the sister. Let's have a look at her. There she is. Here, that's her there. She still looks evil. Like, she's obviously way more thinner and attractive than her brother, but she still has that look of wickedness there. What's her name again? The sister.
So she'll be in charge if he passes away. Is that correct? Or?
But Kim Yu-jung, but the old guard in North Korea, they don't think a woman is suited to the job.
It just depends who's got the bigger guns. That's all that matters.
Well, did you see that meme of Kim Jong-un? It had the first vegetable North Korea's grown in 50 years or something like that, and a picture of him.
You could have an article of 15 minutes just on that. It's pretty golden.
All right. What's the next thing? Oh yes, the Joe Biden, the the Democratic presidential presumptive nominee, he's been involved in a Me Too scandal. A former staffer to him called Tara Reid has alleged that he was inappropriate with her in his congressional office. Oh, sorry, not that Tara Reid from American Pie. It's this Tara Reid here. This is what she looked like in 1993. As you can see, the spelling is different. Reade.
Okay.
I reckon because the actress Tara Reid, she's quite washed up. Like she was the lowest paid star in the latest American Pie movie, because so she's probably disappointed that there's a new Tara Reid around now.
This story was out a couple of weeks ago, though, wasn't it?
Yes, but
yeah,
it's
was it who was it? Like, was it the Washington Post or the New York Times? They reported on it, and they said that they'd done an investigation, and they found no evidence of sexual misconduct other than the conduct which has already been alleged, basically. So
that's the Washington.
Other than the actual accusations, which are pretty horrendous, we can't find anything else.
But that's not the only newspaper around there. The New York Times has, because remember with the Cassie Blasey Ford one, she just like made it up in like the current year. But this, like the New York Times, they've interviewed her friends, lawyers, and people that work with Biden in the 90s, and said that this has been around since then. And now's emerged, I'll play it for you, a segment from Larry King Live on CNN in the 1990s, which is Tara Reid's mother talking about her daughter's mistreatment by a senator. Let's have a look at that.
We're back. A couple more phone calls on this very important topic. Our guests are former United States Senator Howard Baker, Richard Allen, former National Security Advisor, and Lois Romano of the Washington Post. San Luis Obispo, California. Hello.
Yes, hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
Or she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked for, she didn't tell it.
That's true.
Well, but these are the people who do come to the Lois Romanos, right? The staff worker who says, I want to let you know about what's going on, either with my boss or the guy down the hall.
And a lot of these people have a sense of obligation. They feel that this public official should be accountable if it's something wrong.
They're whistleblowers to the press.
Exactly.
And you can see that at the end that clip is from the Media Research Council Newsbusters, which is, well, that's a conservative website. But do you know who I found, the person whose Twitter feed I found this on? Sean King. Remember, he's the Black Lives Matter activist he's very light-skinned Black Lives Matter activist.
Have you guys also seen, like, I haven't been able to watch like more than about 10-20 seconds of them, like just any footage you've got that they've got, and people just plonked together of Joe Biden interacting with young girls, and like the girls are all
creepy.
This is a doozy here that I read it before. All right, keep going. I'll find it in a moment.
Yeah, it's just so horrendous, and Biden is just so illegible that I just keep going with the theory that
yes, it was here. I've got it here. Biden's Senate Chief of Staff and Deputy Chief of Staff during 1992-93 expressed doubts to the veracity of Reid's statement, saying they would have recalled Reid's complaints. they don't recall. That's a thing that we've always heard about Biden conduct had she made them. They also said the alleged behavior would have been very out of character for Biden. It's like, have they seen him on camera?
Yeah, that's the thing.
So Biden's like the Bill Shorten of America. Like he's creepy, he's very creepy, he's weird, and he's also got an allegation against him, just like Bill Shorten. And in the words of Daniel Andrews, we believe you.
Yes.
We believe you.
But
Yes.
it's actually broken up because obviously we saw with the rape allegations against Bill Clinton, the left just brushed them aside. But we're seeing with the Biden allegations that there's a split in the left. There's some Me Too feminists are saying, yeah, like we need to ditch Joe Biden. There are some that are standing by him saying due process. And I've talked about how we've all speculated there's going to be some sort of thing that's going to make Joe Biden step down as the presumptive nominee, and they'll get Andrew Cuomo as the emergency candidate, and this might be it.
Andrew Cuomo or Hillary Clinton. Yeah, that's the thing. You look at Joe Biden, and he just seems that bad, and you just got to wonder: are they really going to stay with this guy all the way to November? Or is it October or November when they?
November.
I think it'll be stupid. It'll be stupid if they get rid of him. It's only like 6 months away. But what I don't like is all these polls. I don't know. That's another can of worms, but even now, people believe in the polls that Biden's going to win because according to the polls, he's ahead of Trump. And I'm like, you idiots.
Yeah.
You know, same thing happened with Trump. It's like, why even make that prediction? I mean, there's no credibility here. It's just really annoying because I see it all the time. You know, he's like 8-10 points ahead or whatever. And
what did
It's
we
going
all
to be a Trump slide.
what did
It's
we
gonna
all
be a
think
Trump
of
slide.
his disinfectant remarks, where he was talking to that she's known just as the scarf medical lady in the room, was talking about using disinfectant in sunlight to kill. It's like, it sounds interesting. We'll look into that. And I know that some people have I saw that the Sky News Outsiders said that Trump was engaging in a brainstorming session, which was still silly to do. But the reason why they're going all out against Trump is because because people will believe what the President of the United States says and follow his instructions, even though he's either lying or wrong. But this is the thing: like all the presidents before, that have all lied and misled the people. And shouldn't the lesson here be is like, you shouldn't, no matter who's the president, you shouldn't take their suggestions or advice on face value?
Yeah. It's one of the more bizarre little things that I've seen, because I've read the transcript of what Donald Trump said, and he clearly wasn't telling people to inject to drink bleach or to inject disinfectant into their blood. It was obviously not what he was saying, and before he had come out and said, "Okay, look, I was being sarcastic," I find that bizarre, because he could have just come out and said, "Look, I wasn't. That's not what I was saying." I find his reasoning, or at least the reporting of his reasoning, to be really, really weird. But it's just another example of people who hate Donald Trump being prepared to believe the fake news about him.
Yeah.
It's been really bizarre. And I don't blame him for saying, "Look, I'm not going to do any press briefings." Donald Trump literally should just do his press briefings by Twitter, because that way he gets to speak to everybody. I love how so many people get pissed off by the fact that Donald Trump uses Twitter all the time. I reckon like he should just use that as his press briefing, and that way he doesn't have to deal with the media at all.
You get the point that I was making there, that the narrative that the US mainstream media had is that every president before Trump was a saint. And they also think that Trump supporters are so stupid that they're going to inject themselves with disinfectant, and they're all going to drink tank cleaner. Yeah,
it makes absolutely no sense. It's so stupid. That's what I'm saying. It's just one of the most bizarre things it like I know we've had a lot of bizarre things happen, but this takes it to another level.
I saw
just how they can try to twist this around. I sometimes say that like the only way that this makes sense is if they're conducting some kind of psyop just to try to break down our critical faculties. Like if you want to make somebody have a mental breakdown, you basically just keep giving them nonsense, because like to explain that something is nonsense can be really mentally draining and physically draining, and it's easier just for everything to shut down, and that's what this feels like. It feels like psychological warfare.
When I went to the ABC website this morning, they had an article on their foreign correspondent episode that they're airing tonight, which I'd already heard about this. Poland's government is leading a Catholic revival. It has minorities and liberals worried because they've created these LGBT free zones. And this is by the reporter, was it Eric Campbell? He says, the weird part isn't the souvenir stand selling anti-Muslim t-shirts or the angry young men wearing skull masks chanting faggots forbidden. That's standard for an ultra-nationalist rally. What's really jarring is the sign of priests standing behind them clutching rosaries.
Magnificent.
Then there were the old ladies singing songs about bashing Marxists and the young families who brought their babies in prams to celebrate the parade.
Oh, man. Something tells me that the Catholic Church in Poland is a lot more based than the one here.
Have a look at this guy here.
There's
Far-right leader Robert Bakowicz is waging war against cultural Marxists while pushing for Catholic values being enshrined in Polish law. Do you think in Poland that they would have that there would have been a local police force who would have advertised for complaints against a senior Catholic leader?
Yeah, there's none of that nonsense there. Good on Poland. That's how you keep your country strong.
Yeah, and it talks about it's got the headline here, the rainbow plague, where it has tried to make abortion even more restricted, crackdown on IVF, voted to make sex education a criminal offence, and declared much of the country to be LGBT free zones. The Archbishop of Krasvik Marek says Poland is facing a rainbow plague of gay ideologies pushing for same-sex marriage and adoption rights. He likens them to the hated Soviets who occupied Poland until 1989. This ideology is a threat, just like the Red Plague.
Yeah. I love the fact that they're identifying how cultural Marxism attempts to break down society from so many different angles. Yeah, that's magnificent. Like even banning sex education, like they understand. Okay, that's simply a Trojan horse to push the gay agenda to our children. That's what they're doing in the West. We're not going to let them do it here.
But the thing is, mate, like we can take a leaf from Poland, because Poland, Russia, and all the other countries that I'm not going to mention, but that have these measures in place, to ban this sort of propaganda and stuff. Right now, there are still LGBT lobby groups in Poland and Russia, but regardless, those groups, those activist groups, they're afraid because they get bashed every now and then. Their rallies get destroyed if they have a rally. The government doesn't let them promote things too much because it's against the law. So all those activist groups, they're basically on the back foot because of these laws and because of the strong Christian nationalism, I would call it, in those countries. Now, that's what we need here, because they're fighting in Poland. All the gays in there are fighting for recognition to exist as people and be accepted. Now, in Australia and most of the West, they're already accepted and they're recognised as whatever. And now they've got us on the back foot, and they're basically promoting, the drag queens and the safe schools and all the other pro-gay stuff, and making it harder for, Justice Porteous in Tasmania, for example, was dragged through the courts for giving out a flyer supporting traditional marriage. So,
because he said it was a danger to the family and children.
Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make, guys, is that would you rather be like Poland where they're on the back foot, or would you rather be like us where we're on the back foot fighting for basic rights, religious freedom, and whatever? Unfortunately, you can't have it, but you can't reconcile both. This is a really Herculean struggle between Christianity and Satanism, whatever you want to call it. The point is that you can't reconcile both, because the extremists in the gay lobby will always push, and they lead the charge, and they're always going to basically infect the education system, the libraries, the public institutions, and they're going to be pushing for all this gay stuff. So we need to make a decision, and ideally we need to build up a movement where it gets to a point where we become like Russia and Poland, where there's such a strong sort of activist, nationalist influence in all the fora that it'll basically make the government pass these sort of laws. It's going to take some time, but we need to basically first red pill people and then go from there.
Yeah, you're spot on. Like there's no middle ground. People might sort of go, like the 1990s was all right because like we
don't ask, don't tell.
Like we didn't have this stuff shoved down our throats. All it meant was that the 1990s was a period. We could look back to some mythical time when we supposedly had like multiculturalism working here in Australia, but now like it's all gone too far, and political correctness has gone too far. All that means is that different ethnic groups had come into Australia, and they weren't strong enough to push their own agenda and really push for their own ethnic interests, their own racial interests. What we're seeing here in Australia now is a struggle between multiple racial groups, multiple ethnic groups, over who's going to be dominant in Australia. There's no middle ground with any of this. You only ever have one master of a place. You can't have two. Yeah.
Maybe the Senator Slayer, given his continued case for disturbing religious worship at that gay church, maybe he can seek refugee status in Poland.
If you haven't seen his Neil's video, please go on his channel. He did a recent video, I think last week, about a bit of an update on his court case. So if you haven't seen it, please go and watch it. It's worthwhile. I'm sure there'll be more videos coming out about that once the court case is over.
But wait, there's more from Eastern Europe. Hungary prepares to end legal recognition of trans people.
Wow.
This is being pushed by their traditionalist Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. They want to push through legislation to end the legal recognition of trans people by defining gender as biological sex based on primary sex characteristics and chromosomes and stuff. That's making it impossible for people to legally change their gender.
Good on him. I hope they ban the use of the word gender as well. Like it's sex. It's the term gender is essentially a social construct.
And do you know, we all know what these two nations have in common. They suffered under communism for 45 years.
Seems to be a pretty good red pill, doesn't it?
Mm. Please join us on Entropy. We're going to be wrapping up soon. If you have a question for any of us. As I said in my introduction, tomorrow is Captain James Cook Day, 250 years since the anniversary of when he landed in Botany Bay. And it was his second voyage to down to the Pacific.
Yeah. 250 years, I think, correct,
yes.
David? I think you did an article about this. Is that correct, David? I think I saw something.
We haven't put anything up, actually.
Okay, I thought I saw something. Oh, good. Yeah.
I'm thinking of something else.
From what I understand, like boomers tell us that the 200th anniversary was actually a really big deal back in 1970. It's amazing how things have changed in 50 years.
Yeah, so we had the reenactment, the bicentennial reenactment. I remember that. We had Aboriginals dressing, acting, about reenacting that, which was pretty cool.
Where they're going like this.
Yeah, I love that video, and then all of a sudden we can't do anything. But on this note, you know, I don't know if you saw my posts in the Telegram. It's kind of related, so apologies for deviating just a bit, but it is on the Aboriginal topic. But I am so pissed off with the whole lest we forget the massacres. I don't know, Aboriginal Legal Service. I posted on the
Well,
Telegram.
it's disputed that a lot of those massacres actually took place.
Yeah, well, regardless whether that took place or not, I made a point when I emailed these people and I called them. I tried to get in touch with the CEO, but I spoke to her PA. Anyway, I told her, firstly, you shouldn't be making these political statements on Anzac Day, and actually remove the Facebook post. So if you go on Aboriginal Legal Service Facebook page, they posted a photo. I put a video on Zorba Dundee, so check out my video on Zorba Dundee. There's a screenshot of it. But they said, lest we forget the massacres that whites committed on the frontier wars, so to speak. And they actually removed the post, I think, a day after, because a lot of people were complaining. And I made a point to the person I was speaking to on the phone that, you know, what about the Maria massacre? And a bit of history for everyone. During my meditations video, one of my meditations videos a long time ago was a video called the Maria Massacre, like the woman's name, Maria Massacre. I think it was in 1840, I think it was, in Adelaide, South Australia. And basically, I think about 60 white people were slaughtered by Aboriginals. It was a shipwreck, and the settlers couldn't, you know, they were shipwrecked and they couldn't find themselves anyway. And the women were actually raped as well. So you had a black on white massacre. And I made a point to the woman on the phone that, like, if you're going to recognise massacres, which you shouldn't be doing on an Anzac Day, okay, just for, you know, out of courtesy to the Anzacs, do it any other day, not Anzac Day. What about those massacres? What about the Maria massacre? How come isn't reconciliation a two-way street? When are you Aboriginals going to apologise for the black on white massacres, which no one ever talks about? And she couldn't answer me. She could not answer me.
I didn't expect her to answer.
And it just sucks. I'm right. I got a point. Okay, both sides committed, you know, crimes. I accept that. And if we apologise for it, which we did apparently on February 13, I think 2008, when Kevin Rudd apologised for all that, how come they haven't apologised? I mean, I'm sure there are Australians living today who have ancestors who, you know, passed away during these massacres, you know, and there's no apology from them.
Well said, Stefanous. Well said.
Oh, we're heading towards the end of the show. We started with the news that Daniel Andrews is holding firm in keeping us locked down. He wants to be the last premier to. Well, that's if he's going to set us free. New Zealand had their semi-liberation day where they're allowed their McDonald's and KFC were able to open. The drive-through queues were enormous because they weren't even allowed that. That's how much Jackboot Jacinta had
Jacinta
shut down the nation completely.
Tim, is it Jackboot Jacinta or horseshoe Jacinta?
Well, yeah, I think is a jackboot more powerful than a horseshoe?
I think horseshoe is more descriptive, but we'll go with jackboot. Yeah.
It rhymes. Yeah, but probably Daniel Andrews would have liked to have done what she did, because remember that Daniel Andrews was the first one to sort of say, we might have to ask Victorians to do things they've never been asked to do before. And of course, that's Orwellian to say, force them. And remember that he was sort of spruiking, we're definitely going to go to stage 4, whatever that is. So you could tell he was eager to get to stage 4, which is what New Zealand is coming out of.
Did he actually use the expression whatever that is? Like, I loved it how they were kind of making these things up.
Yeah, they were. They confessed they were making it up. The expression was they didn't know what stage 4 was, but it's coming. And Daniel Andrews, he's saying that the reason why Victoria can't relax anything is because of what's happened in Singapore and Japan, and with a second wave, and they've had even to have a greater level of lockdown. I don't know why that the Singapore and Japan example only applies to Victoria and not the other states.
I actually don't have a problem with them keeping us locked down a little bit longer. We are heading into winter, so yeah, I'm not underestimating the coronavirus. I think there's a lot of credibility to reports that they may have spliced AIDS with it, and that it was made in a lab. Yeah, I still take it seriously, and as I said,
I don't fear getting the virus.
As I've been saying every single time, like I don't mind being stuck at home. It suits me just fine.
Stefanous, what about you?
Yeah, I think maybe a bit longer. I wouldn't mind staying at home for a month or so, but after
Well,
that,
you can stay home for as long as you want. Like,
yeah, but there are people at the office I don't want to see, man. I'm enjoying not being at the office because there are some absolute retards.
Yeah, well, you know how to keep them away from you. Just be like,
yeah, I guess so. But overall, I'm okay with it. But I think slowly, you know, we should gradually unravel it because I think we will because based on what I've seen, we're doing quite well. And I know you guys spoke about the app before, but I think Paulie made a great point that given that, and I had the same sort of assessment when I heard about the app, given that we're already winning the war against the virus, why download it? Because we don't really need it. We're not in a crisis right now. If people were dying left, right, and center, maybe I'd consider it. But if no one's really dying anymore, then why download it? You know, it just seems superfluous.
Because apparently they need to trace the source of transmission. It's something that they're really hung up on now. Even though we're getting like around about 10 new cases a day, and nearly 80% of Australians who've contracted the coronavirus have now recovered. It does seem like that it's a type of surveillance for surveillance sake. And as I've already said, like when we all got the flu last winter, do we know who patient 0 was?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm sure you can blind him with a bootlace. Whoever it was, I'm sure you can blind him with a bootlace. That's for sure.
So is that a wrap, Tim?
Yeah, that is a wrap.
Yeah.
So I'll be back obviously tomorrow night for WilmsFront at 7 p.m. Then there'll be Dia Beltran live at 8:30 p.m. She's got George Christensen as her guest, so that'll be interesting. And then, of course,
do you think George Christensen is going to be forced to disavow her afterwards?
Well, he's already been on probably the most edgelord show there is in the Dingoes.
He had to disavow them.
Oh no, he defended it for like a couple of months. Then he disavowed when they were trying to get Mike Enoch out to Australia. If he said, if I knew that they were anti-Semitic, I wouldn't have come on the show.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Good luck to them both.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure George Christensen has looked her up. But George is
he's led the hard way, you say. Yeah.
He spends more time in the Philippines than in Australia, mate.
He's well and truly grounded now. I mean, he can't leave the country. I believe. Well,
just have a mail order. Just do a mail order, mate. I don't know why. It's too easy. Just do a mail order.
I mean, that is the sort of like joke about his fiance and also Trump's wives that they've taken jobs that local women could have taken. People are saying to me entropy questions. I've got no entropy questions on here.
Oh, yeah, we haven't.
Oh no, wait. There's a whole bunch of questions here. Yeah. I don't know why they weren't showing up. All right.
Okay. What do we got?
Have you ever heard that despite the COVID-19 lockdown in Hamburg, Germany, authorities have issued special permits for pro-refugee rallies?
Well, there was actually a rally. I saw of somewhere in Europe where they all stood like 2 meters apart, all in sort of a planned formation. And I saw something like that. It was bizarre. We're living in clown world, like just seeing the way that they're doing this demonstration. It, doesn't surprise me. Germany's no Poland.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I did invade Poland, but they're not Poland anymore. Now.
When I interviewed my Israeli guest a couple of weeks back, he said that protests are still allowed in Israel during the lockdown. That's one of the essential activities, which is interesting because even Daniel Andrews' Victoria Police arrested all the refugee protesters in Preston in northern Melbourne, which, I didn't mind.
Yeah, I know one of the girls who was given a fine. She used to be at uni with me back at Melbourne Uni. She was part of the Socialist Alternative at Melbourne University. I won't mention her name, but she's like one of the top people at the people leading the Socialist Alternative at Melbourne University. A long time ago, one of the members tried to assault me on campus. It was right after Tony Abbott's election. And they got angry. I made a comment about the election, and so one of them lunged at me and tried to push me, but didn't work out for him. But yeah.
Senator Slayer has said, question for Stephanie, will Macedonia ever be recognised by the Greek invaders? Well, it's called North Macedonia now.
Oh, mate, do not get me started, man. I'm not even going to answer that question because I want to... Jesus, just don't get me started on that.
the
Ask him that one at the start of the stream.
The Greek
he's baiting me.
The Greek government seem to have called it now with Macedonia now that they call
essentially
themselves
the Greek government signed the Prespa agreement about a year and a half ago, basically recognising them as North Macedonia, and that's all was done because a lot of pressure to add them to NATO and the European Union. They're already part of NATO, but right now Bulgaria is going to veto their EU membership unless they change a few things like that they don't recognise the Macedonian language, so to speak. So there's a lot of history, man. You got to look in. Like, there's so much history here. Like Bulgaria and North Macedonia, so to speak. The Bulgarians think that there is no Macedonian language.
I know that. I met a young Greek man at university who said to me that the entire culture and language and history of Macedonia is all made up.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Who are they then?
Well, that's a discussion for another stream, mate. Like it is so. I'm actually reading a lot of books on it right now, a lot of PDF documents. It is so interesting and it's so complicated you wouldn't believe. Like, I'm well versed in it. It's taken me a long time to get so knowledgeable. Trust me, it's not worth talking about right now because we're not going to do it justice. Maybe another time.
Jaden Smith has said, have you heard about the Groper War on TikTok, aka Groper Wars 2.0? Why are they on TikTok? It's owned by the Chinese Communist Party. It's basically the COVID safe app for the Chinese government.
I don't know. All I know about TikTok, isn't it a Chinese platform?
Yeah, that's
like
what I just
videos.
said. You can quickly edit videos and upload them.
Yeah.
Okay. And apparently Tommy Robinson and Britain First created accounts which they quickly got banned.
I'm sure they'll be safe on those ones.
Do you have a TikTok?
I don't have a TikTok now.
Good.
Yeah, I don't really upload videos. Like 6 seconds of videos just not me. It's more of a, just not my style.
Port Film Covers asks, question for Stephanie. What don't the Greeks manufacture? Why don't the Greeks manufacture much? There's Greek cheese in my supermarket, also Greek yogurt as well. That's like really healthy yogurt. But the Greek cheese apparently in his supermarket's made in Poland compared to Italy. Greece doesn't export much. They mostly do tourism.
That's because in the 80s and 70s we had neoliberal governments, one led by Konstantinos Karamanlis, who was like the Menzies of Greece back in the day, and he basically destroyed all the manufacturing. He set things in motion, and he got us into the European Union stuff, but that's where it started from. And even a lot of Greek beers today, like you probably don't know, but I love Greek beer myself. It's different brands. Half of them are owned by Germany and other things. So a lot of the Greek products you see aren't even owned by Greeks. So just be wary of that. If you want to get genuine Greek products, to answer your question, was it Port Film Co-op that asked that question?
Yeah.
If you want genuine Greek products, mate, you got to go to a Greek deli. Go to go to your local market wherever you live, and you'll find a Greek deli, and you'll find the Greek products there because they'll say made in Greece, and they're all written in Greek. And just ask the owner, and the owners will be Greek, and they'll know, and they'll point in the right direction. Yeah.
We've got a question from James Boom for Australian Meditations. Have you got information for us regarding the Greek-Turkish refugee border conflict, and is news of this being suppressed? Yeah, what happened to that?
Yep. So I remember I spoke on Matty Rose Live about a month ago. I don't know if Dave remembers that. I gave my take on it, and the good news is I do know what's happening, obviously, because I follow it. Greece has won that battle. So it lasted for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and we basically, won. The Turks realized that they can't, continue this. They tried to put their spies, because the Turkish government puts spies in amongst the immigrant hordes that come, just to, and they send text messages to the immigrants to create riots and stuff. This is all just, if there's a war between Greece and Turkey, for example, they'll use immigrants and they'll basically get directed by the spies in Greece to basically cause riots. It's like the home front. Like if we can't control the home front, how are we going to, defend ourselves from the front line? But this is all tactics. So basically, it's all pretty much gone now. I've seen photos of the border. It's pretty quiet now, and it's because we basically did very well defending the border, and we didn't let anyone in. And the Turks said, "Yep, all right, they've done pretty well. We haven't really succeeded here, and they can't continue this forever." So that basically, Turkey's given up. Basically, so that was a good victory. Yeah.
It's amazing how strong border protection works as such an effective deterrent, huh?
Yeah, people have...
All you need to do is hold your ground just for a few weeks, a few months. People get the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
That's also been the secret to our success in containing the coronavirus. Is I said to Laura Taylor when I was interviewing her last night, because their borders aren't shut. In Australia, we've banned foreigners. Only Australian citizens and residents are allowed in, and well, it actually was pretty easy. Just shut off the borders, and you contained the virus.
Yeah. Instead, in Great Britain, 20,000 people have died of coronavirus. As those people put those posters up, what is it? Pubs closed, borders open.
Yeah.
How did your interview with Laura Taylor go, Tim?
Yeah, it was fantastic. We went. We finished just a few seconds after XYZ Live, so we went for the full 2 hours. Had a roaring chat. Covered everything about. It's even worse than what you've read in the UK. Just hearing about her first-hand experience, Laura, with anti-white racism and attempted recruitment by the grooming gangs. It's just it was just really horrifying and literally the lockdown, they are going through people's supermarket shopping trolleys to see if they're buying like it's not just like some rogue police person.
Well, one thing, and just so you know, just want to say that I really enjoyed that interview, Tim, with Laura. I think she's a fantastic woman. I wish all women were like her, so based. But one thing that really annoyed me about that interview, it was what you mentioned about where she was living in Bradford, I think it was, where all the Pakistanis are. And you'd have Pakistanis calling her a white slag and stuff, and actually approaching her and her friends. Yeah,
that's what I was talking about.
And I knew that was happening because I remember the whole scandal with what's it called, that council that ignored the whole thing in England.
It was a cover-up by all of the British establishment.
Yeah. So just remind me of that, and to have like grown men approaching her when she's like 14 years old asking for sex. I mean, what the hell, mate? I mean, this is crazy, and I'd like to know how Australians would react. But it seems like I know that Tommy Robbins did a lot of rallies against it, but I'm just imagining if we had the same situation here, what would happen? Would Australians rise up?
We know
against it?
what would happen, because people actually forget what the trigger was for the criminal riots in 2009 is because allegedly some men of Lebanese appearance had been harassing bikini-clad girls at Cronulla Beach.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that sort of answers your question there.
Okay.
And they've never let us forget about it.
Yeah. I guess hasn't happened since, which basically gives credence to the theory that make a stand, things can stop. Leave it at that.
Binary Agenda has said, just a note, not a question. Entropy doesn't refresh questions properly anymore. You have to reload the page sometimes. Yes, that's what I did, and it worked fantastically. Senator Slayer has said, Dave, can you play Osterius?
Oh, no, but I can learn it.
Dave is very, very performance shy. I've been secretly recording him when he thinks the camera's off after the show when he just bashes some tunes out on the piano. And Senator Slayer has said, Tim, could you go to the LGBT no-go zones? Good question. Well, the only way to test that out is I can't go to Poland at the moment, is just to go over to Poland to see.
Oh, man, that's funny.
What would happen? So there you go. All right, no more questions, or I don't know if we even got any super chats since the page was completely screwed there. Well, none have come up. Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Stefanous,
been a pleasure
for joining me. And thank you for everyone in our live chat, and also the sort of strange and weird new accounts that are popping up in the chat. I keep seeing in the chat, what is it, Bert and Ernie popping up. There's like a separate Bert account and there's a separate Ernie account.
The Bert and Ernie memes are some of the best memes on the internet, I've got to say.
Well, they do set a good example during the coronavirus lockdown. They practice social distancing in bed. Their beds are 1.5 meters apart. But, though I can't say the same for Oscar the Grouch, given that he's rolling in trash. That's not very hygienic. And I think the count, given that he has bats in his place, he was probably the source of the outbreak.
Oscar will be fine. He doesn't let anybody else in his house. He's fine.
Only in his trash can.
He likes being left alone. Yeah, he'll be fine. He won't let any coronavirus in.
Yeah, he sort of reminds me of somebody in real life.
Oscar the Grouch?
Yeah, he does.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, right. Tim, is that a wrap?
Yep, I'll be back for WilmsFront, as I said, tomorrow night. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
You're getting more active, Stefanous?
Yeah, I'm thinking about redoing my Telegram account, so I'll try to get onto that soon. And once I do, I'll let you guys know. And also, I tried, just so you know, Tim, I tried getting a webcam. Unfortunately, they're all sold out because, mate, everyone's got webcams for their working from home. I called like 10 different stores, JB Hi-Fi, fucking Good Guys. They're all sold out, but hopefully in a couple of weeks when they're back in stock, I'll get one. So all our webcam problems that we've had for the last few years won't be an issue, hopefully, by next month.
The audience will be able to see you in full high definition.
Exactly.
And Dave, of course, XYZ.net.au, very active.
Yeah, we've been putting.
You can say that again.
In the morning. Yeah, there's just been some great stuff being written. I was enjoying the school holidays. I was just putting something out most days. And David Hilton, Adam Piggott, Ryan Fletcher, Maddie, Blackthorn Jack, these guys writing all the new satire material. Mike Crusade, shout outs to all of them. There've been some really, really great writers. Just love them it all.
Yeah. I almost fell for one of your satire pieces. I didn't report it as fake news, but that the Labor would start quarantining or the Andrews government non-Labor voters.
Yeah. I like the one about Julian Burnside hospitalised for smelling his own farts. There's some ripper stuff there.
All right, good night.
Cheerio.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
The Uncuckables.